Tonight we have Nic here sharing his story, man. I'm excited to hear this. I met Nic like 8 years ago, and he sponsored me for some years when I was not willing to do much of anything, and just kept going in and out and getting loaded. And he stayed like consistent in my life through all that. Like, regardless of what I was doing, like he still kept in contact with me and checked on me, man, and made sure I was all right. And honestly, he's been like the most consistent male figure I've ever had in my life, man. And I love this dude to death, and he's one of my closest friends today. So I give you Nic.
I'm a recovery addict named Nic. My sober date is 5/7/2013. And I only share that because I remember when I first started coming around. You know, I was thinking about this, like, those readings are great, by the way. I like that. I like that a lot. Sorry. But, you know, I was like, yeah, I'm not nervous, none of that stuff. It's gotten to a point to where I can walk into a meeting, a 12-step meeting, and it feels like that's where I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like, and you know, I would hear stuff like that when I first came around, and it would sound corny or like cliche, you know, because when I first come around, there's not much I can identify with except the pain and the mess. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have a message, didn't have a message, didn't have much to talk to you guys about except for where I copped at, how good I could get it, how much I was selling dope for, right? All that bullshit. What camps I had been to, because I thought that was like a status thing. You know what I mean? And even when, and it's just that insanity, that you know, that insane way of thinking. And even, like, I remember when I came to my first meeting, and I was coming off a replacement program, and I just couldn't take that. I remember being on that and, like, hating the person I saw, you know? Like, I hated that guy. I remember one morning I was going to get my dose for the day, and I had to make a right turn down off of Sunset Point in Clearwater to go down to East Bay. And I saw the person in the mirror, and I spit at that fucking guy. And I apologize if I curse a little bit sometimes. So if it offends anyone, I apologize in advance. Because I just hated that person, you know, and I still remember it to this day. And in some of my prayers, there's certain things that I ask for, you know what I mean? Like, and it's not to forget that, not to forget those feelings. Because that's that emptiness, right? And there was a bit of that early on, you know, like I didn't come from a great home. I didn't come from a crazy home, you know. I just, like, the crazy part about my story is my whole dad's side of my family's all messed up, you know, been to prison. My dad died from an overdose. I have 2 uncles that died sharing needles in the 80s in New York. They were sharing needles with each other, hanging out, and they contracted HIV. You know, that's when it was popping off back then. And you know, that's the insanity of this deal, right? Like, for me, the consequences didn't matter. You know what I mean? It was just like that obsession to just get loaded, like, on a regular basis. And you know, the program has offered me many gifts. And I say it all the time. I tell Tommy all the time, like, the greatest gift that I have, aside from my clean date, is that desire to use is gone, right? That obsession to get loaded. And I ask for that, and I ask for that on a regular basis. You know what I mean? Like, and I to this day, I haven't forgotten how I felt when I got here. You know, I went to my first meeting by choice. You know, because my mom, I'd be ripping and running, causing problems, causing my mom, you should go to those meetings your uncles went to and your dad went to and all. And I was like, well, that's not going to work for me. I've never walked into a 12-step meeting a day in my life, but I'm telling you it's not going to work for me. You know, it's that delusion of grandeur of who I was, you know, and that's a direct stems from the no self-esteem, you know what I mean? Like, it started at a young age. I remember we moved down here, my parents got separated. My dad was crazy, man. He was just gone. He was strung out. I don't even have any very fond memories of him. You know, like, one of the things I remember is walking up to, like, up north they have, like, Woolworths and different stores, and we're walking up to, like, a Woolworths, and it was around Christmas time, and Santa Claus was doing a deal, and I said, oh, can we go see Santa Claus? And he's like, Santa Claus is dead and I killed him. That fucked me up, man. like, I was like, whoa. You know what I mean? I'm 5 years old, man. That's heavy. I still remember. I remember the sneakers I was wearing, man. So that's like a deep-seated thing, though. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I hear the words trauma, toxic, and narcissist, and all these stuff. So I think they're overused these days, but, you know, I'm not the guy to say if they are or they aren't. That's just my opinion. But that's some traumatic stuff at 5 years old, man. And I remember thinking, like, man, what would this guy do to me if he did that to Santa Claus? You know what I mean? Like, heavy, though. And I had this fear. And listen, he used to beat the shit out of me, man. Like, my other brother was and I'm young, man, like, held up like this, bam, 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 like, and those are my memories. And I carried that for a long time. Like, it was the fuel I used to do what I was doing. Like, once I had got a taste, it was like, oh, this is where I'm at. Because, you know, growing up young, I got a mom, 3 other kids, single mom. We moved down here. We live right off Pine Hill. So right away I'm getting bullied, picked, you know what I mean? And fighting a lot because I had that rage from a dad not being around. A lot of rage, man. And I didn't know how to channel it, right? I didn't know how to channel anything. And, excuse me, but I always remember feeling these, like, less than. You know what I mean? Like, less than. I'd act out in school, cause problems. Never comfortable in my own skin, you know, and I would do these things craving that attention. You know what I mean? That was the dope then. You know what I mean? That attention, that feel good, that it's taking me out of me, who I am, right? And I did, you know, I acted out like that for a long time. And as I started to come up, I started to gravitate towards a younger crowd, you know. No dad in the house. Listen, man, a boy needs a dad or a male figure that, like, hey, what do I do now, right? You know what I mean? Like, and that's one of the blessings I got from this deal, because eventually I ended up getting that. And I'd be hanging out with the whole crowd, and I remember I was like, 10 or 11, smoking and drinking, and I thought I had arrived finally. You know what I mean? Like, I'm hanging out with the older crowd, got a little taste, and I just thought I had hit the fucking jackpot, And the sick part about it is I felt a part of something then. And it had kept going on like that for a while, Somehow I graduated high school. I think the first time I ended up getting arrested and going to, like, a juvenile program for acting a fool. I was 12 years old. You know what I mean? My fiance's 13 years younger than me. I was locked up before she was even born, And that's a little insane to me. But I ended up, graduating high school, doing all, and I get this job. And in this job I get fresh out of high school, I'm with the older crowd. Like, I'm the young guy, the jitterbug on the squad, like, and they're all older. And, I'm doing all these things with them. We're traveling. And I end up, we're building high rises. So a lot of work wasn't local. We're in Texas, North Carolina, Miami, a lot, big cities. And I'm working it's not even a big city. It's right outside of Tampa, now Sun City Center. And I end up falling, getting this injury. And I feel like 44 feet, I fall, fracture my T12, T11 vertebrae. I was knocked out. I couldn't remember my name. I remember coming to, and they're like, stay still. They can't have the ambulance come get me because we're on a construction site and the ground's too shaky. So they got to send a helicopter in. I get bay flighted to the Tampa General. Now, I remember being in the helicopter, and you're strapped up. You got everything on my neck. I'm strapped, and I'm laying there. And the nurse in the back is rubbing like this wheel thing on my foot. And he says, did you feel that? And I said, feel what? And he takes a pin and he pokes my foot. And he says, did you feel that? And I said, I didn't feel anything, man. And I remember him looking over at the guy, looking up at the guy over top of me like, okay, this is bad. You know, that look. I remember getting so scared, all these thoughts, like I'm never going to walk again. I'm saying those foxhole prayers, you know, I'm just like, God, please, please. I didn't think I'm going to have children, you know, and I remember finally getting to the hospital, doing the MRI. They had to cut my clothes off, the whole deal. It was crazy because I had like dope in my pocket, and the security guard, I remember him whispering in my ear like, hey, I took that stuff, so you're gonna be okay. And I was like, what the fuck, man? You know, like, but I'm in shock, man. I don't even know my name. Like, they didn't even have me, they had me called, like, I guess they do it in order, so my hospital name was Spice Doe instead of John Doe. I remember that part. And yeah, it was wild. And I remember doing an MRI, and it's like from the waist down, you know, when you lay in your hand too much and it falls asleep, that's how it felt, like tingling. And I saw that I could wiggle my toes, right? So I started wiggling my toes. I couldn't feel anything, but I knew I had mobility, right? Now I could wiggle my toes. That fear went away, and the insanity is that once that fear went away, my next thought was, man, I'm going to get so much good shit for this. I'm going to be able to work so many angles. I'm going to be, like, it's crazy how I went from one end to the, not an ounce of gratitude, right? Like, not even, like, thank you, God. None of that. Like, somebody's going to pay, and I'm going to get taken care of. You know, but, like, that's that, like, that self-obsession. You know what I mean? That me, that mine, like, that just, you know, it's like that. If everything doesn't go exactly how the fuck I think it should, my character defects are popping out, you know? I didn't know that stuff then. But anyway, I do that, whatever. And this is like 1999, man. Pasco's a hotbed at that point. Like, everybody knew what was going on back then. I don't need to talk. You know what I mean? Like, I had medical records. Had one that I was getting for free, and I'm able to go to all these other ones, and I thought I was Tony Montana. You know what I mean? Like that it's that, again, that delusion of like grandeur, of like what's important, this status stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell Tommy all the time, man, it doesn't matter what, you know, I go home at night, my kids say, hey, Dad, like, that's my status. You know, that's my status. And... you know, I ended up doing the deal, man. The whole deal. What everybody was doing, I was doing it too. End up getting in some trouble. You know, I'm repetitively getting locked up. I'm jail, bond out. I'm in jail. Now I ain't got no money for bond. I got a little bit of money from this lawsuit. I bond out. My attorney, who handles the personal injury, has to come, and I have to sign a check in the visiting area of jail so I can bond out again, so they can bond me. I'll sign some money over to them. It's just crazy. Get back out. Ended up catching some crazy charges, some violent stuff. You know, drinking, doing the whole deal. Tried to run some people over with my car, and so now I'm in some trouble, man. I remember I'm sitting in the county jail. I'm in there for like 13 months. I have no bond because I had bonded out 3 times. You know, I'm thinking like I got to do something different, but I get this little blessing, and this is when I get introduced to a 12-step program. They send me to this, I'm younger, they send me to they called it a prison prevention program, and it was ran by like PAR and DOC. Like, there's DOC guards there. There's feds. You got to do a count. You got to say your DOC number. You got to do all that stuff. Inmates, you know, it's like phases. You do 6 months here, 6 months there, 6 months, you know. I do that, but I'm screwing up in there. I don't get any of the privileges. You know, I can't get off phase 1. I'm on phase 1. It's a 6-month deal. I'm in phase 1 for 5 months, you know. The crazy part is I had this counselor, her name is Miss Pat, and you know, all the counselors are in recovery. You know, I know now just because the lingo they were using and that sort of thing there, I couldn't really understand then, you know, because that self-obsession, like, these people wake up to fuck me over, you know what I mean? Like, that's that self-obsession, right? Like, they're out to get me, right? Never once looking at my part and, like, why am I here, you know? Like, you know, and I did some dumb stuff, and she asked me, she's like, what does the word integrity mean to you? I had to ask people what that word meant, man, because I had no idea what that word meant. Now, I'm not 5, you know what I mean? I'm an adult. Like, I'm 19 years old. I should know what that word means at this point in my life. I didn't know what it meant because I didn't have any, right? So, I you know, if I don't have something, I don't know what it is, man, you know? And whenever I do that deal, man, I make it all the way to phase 3. I go to sober living, but I'm in phase 2. I'm, you know, like, messing with the women, not going to work, going on my lunch break, getting a court and getting, you know what I mean? Like, I'm literally in this place for these things, to correct these things, and I'm finding ways to go do it, sneaking out at night, running to the corner store just to get drunk and then go lay back in the bed. That's an issue, right? That's an issue, right? And, you know, I didn't even, like, you know, step 1 talks about the admittance. The sick part is, before I thoroughly worked that deal, is like, I admitted it, but I thought it was like my destiny, like who I was, like I'm supposed to do this, like it happened to your dad, it happened to I just thought I was following suit, you know what I mean? And I was doing it, and I was okay with it. Unfortunately, the pain just hadn't got great enough then, you know? And I get out or whatever, you know, and like I couldn't even do this right. Like, I had probation, I had and this is fucked up for me to say, but I had probation, I had a probation officer, a community control officer that would tell me when she was coming over, that would tell me you got a drug test coming up, and I'm like, you know, but God had different plans, man, and whatever. I get in trouble again. I get caught down in Tampa, copping some dope, doing that, and I get locked up in Hillsborough County. I'm sitting there. I got probation out of Hernando, probation out of Pasco. So I remember I knew I had other stuff pending, so I just tell the judge, just give me a year and a day. I'll take care of it. You know, like, let's go. And I remember sitting on that bus, and I'm like 21 years old, man. I'm sitting on the bus. It's cold. It's March. I'm heading to Orlando. I got the shackles on my ankles. You're like this, and I'm in the front of this bus, and I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I thought I was going to piss myself. And I remember how alone I felt right there, right? Like, alone. And that is where, like, getting loaded, the disease took me to that alone. And it's taken me there a couple times throughout this story. And I mentioned that part about how alone I felt because it's important later on and I just thought, like, man, you did it this time. There is nothing you can't lie your way out of this one. You can't. And I thought at one point in time it was like this badge of honor, right? Like, I don't even like talking about it. I mean, I don't ever bring it up. I don't like talking about it. But it's part of the deal, man. It's part of my story. And, you know, so whatever, I go, and even in there, I'm just like the same, right? Because the problem's me. But I have yet to admit that in this part of my life, right? I'm a victim of circumstances. If you grew up like I grew, if your dad wasn't around, if you were poor, if you got picked on because your clothes were bummy, if you couldn't afford new clothes for school, you would have done all the stuff I'm doing too. So don't tell me about me, Zero open-mindedness, not. And whatever, I go up a few years, I spend pivotal birthdays for a male in some sort of jail, facility, or DOC institution. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 5 birthdays consecutive. And I remember that feeling of alone on the bus, and then this getting to go home, and feeling like freedom, right? Like I'm going home, I'm free, feeling good, right? And having the best of intentions when I went home, you know what I mean? Like, and then the intentions changed to, well, I'm gonna smoke a little reefer and drink a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, I'll be okay. And it was probably a matter of weeks, man, before I get right back ripping and running. Full-blown hardcore. Like, I'm stealing a pad from a doctor's office, writing fake scripts because I knew a nurse. She told me how to do it. I'm going to the 24-hour one store in the middle of the night because they couldn't call the doctor to make sure. I'm doing all this crazy stuff. And the crazy part is, like, I've had some wreckage of my past pop up that I've had to clean up, but like none of the major stuff, none of the like 4th step stuff, 5th step stuff that it's just me and him, you know what I mean? Like, thank God. And I doing the fake checks and all this crazy stuff, and I catch a strong arm robbery. I'm not even home 6 months. I'm probably home 90 days, right? And I'm full-blown gone. Like, I come home probably 195. I'm 145 at this point. I'm 195 looking good, right? Like, and I leave. I meet this chick. I go to New York again, and like, I remember when she said we went to New York, and I was not even concerned about the warrants and like the PRR deal they have in Florida. If you get out of an institution and you catch a violent charge, you got to go back and do like a day for day based on what it is. And I thought, man, I can go right to the city and cop as soon as I get off. As soon as I get off. And that's exactly what I did. As soon as that plane landed, I went right to Queens and copped. I don't know where I'm going to stay. I don't know where I'm going to work. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I knew where the dope was, and I went and found it. It's sad, man. It's sad. I'm grateful, right? I'm blessed. Those experiences showed me there was a way out and a place to go when I was ready. I haven't really talked about that stuff in a long time, man, because I try not to do that because I don't really like speaking on the mess, like the fifth tradition states, like, I don't know if the mess helps anyone. Maybe. I hope so. But I'm up there, I'm ripping and running, and, I get on this replacement program, the methadone program. I guess we can talk about it. And I stayed on that for a little while, and it, again, like I would literally go to the window and get my dose. Then you get little take homes, and I'd go right to the bathroom and drink another one. And I'm talking like 360 milligrams at a time. Like, that shit would kill a horse. You know what I mean? And like, I had no business. Nobody has any business doing that, much less. But you know what I mean? And that's why I don't play with this deal, man. Like, I know that I have, and I don't I don't feel sorry for myself about it anymore. You know what I mean? I don't beat myself up for it anymore. In that first step, I've admitted it, right? Like, this is who I am. But it doesn't make me garbage, you know, and that's what I used to wear, like this chip on my shoulder, right? Like I was this piece of garbage. I don't know why I was put here. I hate me. I hate you. I put on a good show at times, but that's how I felt. And I don't know when it happened, but when it's, you know, I'd use and I thought I'd become this person that you guys wanted me to be, or they wanted me to be, you know what I mean? Never really getting in touch with who I am. I didn't really start to get in touch with who I am until I started this deal, you know, and started going through and doing that work they talk about. You know, and they call it do the work, man. I'm telling you what, in the 12 years I've been here, the work that I've had to do to stay has paled in comparison to the work that it's out there. You know what I mean? That's work, man. That's a grind. That's brutal. It's grueling, you know? It's a daunting task. Fuck, what am I going to do today? Like, it's just, you know, you hear, you got sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? And again, that was another one I couldn't wrap my head around until I got sick and tired of being sick and tired, man. Like, and just that empty. You know, but through along the way, the program and whatnot, and H&I and all that, thank God for them, because it showed me there was a place for me to go, and when I was ready. Again, I don't know how to maintain healthy relationships. I don't know how to do much in life, so I'm up there in this relationship with this girl. We're going to get married, but the relationship is of necessity, right? We can't keep the lights on without each other. You know what I mean? Like, we don't love each other, but we need the motherfucking lights to stay on, you know? So we hated each other, man. Like, the fights that we would have, like, I'm sleeping on the couch, she's sleeping, you know, it's crazy. But, you know, that's why that 7 tradition is so vital too, man. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many gems we get here. You know what I mean? Like that fully self-supporting, denying outside contributions. You know what I mean? There's freedom in that, man. There's freedom. And it's not a grandiose thing. It's freedom, right? You know? Not as like a weapon against others, in self, right? So I'm getting rid of some of that bondage that I have on me. But anyway, I got to come back here, right? I got nowhere to go now. So I come down here, back down here, say 2012, you know, and again, I'm always looking for that next thing. Well, if I just had this job, I'd be fine. If I just found this girlfriend, right? Or if I just hit this lick, oh man, let me go get a scratchy. Like, I deserve this, you know? Like, I love to think I deserve some shit, right? Like, I pay a bill. Like, where's the mayor? Like, it's parade time, you know what I mean? Like, that's that delusion of grandeur, man. So I hook up with this girl I knew from high school, man. I hook up with her. She's got a master's degree. She's got where she worked at, but she dressed in her nurse clothes, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, this is the ticket, though. Like, this is my meal ticket, right? Like, I'm finally here. And I'm holding together little odd jobs, but I'm like hardly hanging on by a thread here, man. You know, because like, I may have been on the replacement program, but I'm everything else, strip club, whatever it was, you know what I mean? Like, I'm definitely here for a reason, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I ended up getting her pregnant, right? And I remember I got her pregnant, and I remember talking to my buddy Joe, and I was so scared, man. I was like, fuck, like, you know, and thank God she got pregnant, you know what I mean? Like, because that was the catalyst right there, man. Like, you know, it was said, oh, well, you got to come for yourself. Man, I came because I remember when she was pregnant, man, and I'm at my bitter ends, and I'm thinking like, oh, man, how am I going to take care of I can't even take care of myself. How am I going to take care of another human? And I was talking to somebody, and I was telling them, I mean, I'm just going to blow my brains out, at least the way this kid will get a check every month. You know, like he'll get a check every month. That's where I was at. Like that's how much I was just that emptiness, man. And what they said to me, but I knew, and I decided, well, let me just give it a try. I remember saying I'm just not going to go to the clinic anymore, and I just quit going. And I said, well, let's give one of these meetings a try, right? And I called a little helpline. Some lady says she's going to meet me there. She has me meet her at this place, and the crazy part is it was called the Serenity Club down in Pinellas County, and it was a place that when I was in that phase 2 of that program that we went to on a regular basis, you know, it always had this sign in the middle, and it's funny how, like, tell you what, going to an institution, there was nothing I learned, but I was hanging out with this Spanish guy, and he was doing a tattoo on me. And I snuck into his dorm, and he had a life sentence. And the guard had walked by the window twice. And he said, all right, man, that's a sign, because he never does that. So we need to just wrap it up, not get caught. When we do laundry, go back out to the rec yard. And he said, listen, man, you're not going to get nothing out of this place. He said, but you're going home one day. He said, only thing you take with you is remember to pay attention to the signs in life, because I didn't. And that's it. This is my life. And I've gotten them. You know what I mean? And like really digging into my step work with a sponsor, and a lot of that stuff was revealed to me. And I'm not like this spiritual guru. I don't got all these fancy posts, and I can't tell you like none of this other stuff. But I know this deal works. You know what I mean? Like, but I really got to get to work. So I meet this lady at this meeting. I don't know where she's going to be, but I know she tells me, you know, there's one fellowship in the front, one fellowship in the back, and they got this little area where you can get coffee. And I don't know where to go. You know, I'm 3 days removed from the methadone. Like, I got snot coming out of me. I'm shivering. I haven't slept. I feel like I'm going to die, right? And I wanted to. But I walk up, I get a cup of coffee because I'm exhausted, and I see a guy grab a sugar pack, flick the sugar pack like this, and I said, all right, just follow that guy. Just follow him. Just follow him. And that's what I did. I sit in the front row because I remember hearing that in treatment. Sit in the front row if you want to make it. Well, fuck, I wanted to make it, so let me sit in the front row. Sat in the front row, and this guy gets up and tells his story, man, and he's talking about all this stuff, all these feelings, all this crazy stuff, and I'm like, you know, incarceration, dad not being around, how he got loaded, and I'm like, damn. Oh shit, I'm not the only one. You know what I mean? Like, I walk through life like I'm the only one that feels this way. Like that, again, self-obsession. And I got some relief, right? Like, I started to get a little bit of relief, man. You know, I talked to people, got some numbers, got plugged in, started doing the deal, and I got that little pink cloud that they talk about this go around, right? And I was like, and my experience with that was a little bit of bullshit, right? Because I was bullshit, you know what I mean? Like, and some things came up, I didn't know how to handle it, and I just said, F it, you know. We talk about that living in the moment, one day at a time, I don't know, just for today, whatever you want to call it, man. And one of the hardest things I could grasp, what kept me out there for so long, is this fear, right? This fear of, how am I going to do that the rest of my life, right? Like, and it's scary. Anything on that is heavy, man. It's just this heavy concept that I don't even need to do, right? Like, I just need to do it right now. That's it. And I don't even have to do it alone. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to. You know, I come to the meetings. This is the first place I've ever been to where I can't bullshit you guys. I can't tell you guys, you don't get it, because everybody in here gets it. And if you don't, most of you do, you know? So that excuse is out the window now. You know, I can't use that one anymore. You know, I remember I'd be thinking like I'm doing something wrong because I'd be sitting in a meeting, but all I'd be doing is thinking about is getting loaded. You know what I'm saying? And I can tell you this, man, if you're sitting in a meeting thinking about getting loaded is a hell of a lot better than sitting in the dope house or whatever it was, wishing I could get clean, man. Wishing, right? Like, look, I can't do it, so let's just keep doing this. And I meet these guys at the meeting. What we got, buddy?
17.
17?
Yep.
Okay. And, you know, I start to get plugged in. I start to feel good, man. I start to feel a little bit of relief. You know, I get a sponsor. Because they had suggested it. I get a home group. You know, and I start going. But I as I started to get that feel good, right? Because that's what I did is I'm chasing a feel good my whole life because I don't feel. So I get that little taste of that feel good, and I didn't really start doing the work, man. I did it a little bit, and now there's a cute girl just as sick as I am sitting in the meeting, and I'm just spewing, right? Because I'm thinking she wants to hear what I have to say, like, who the fuck am I? You know what I mean? And some things came up, and I couldn't drive my car no more, and I just said, I'd be fighting with my son's mom and all that too, and I just said, F it, I can't do this the rest of my life. Not really, and I didn't have to do it. I just had to do it right then, man, you know? And I decided to go back out. Again, with that, I'm just going to smoke and drink, right? Like, that's all I'm going to do. That lasted for 2-3 days, and I'm right back, full blown, man. Full blown. It's about 2 weeks, and I remember I'm with my friend. I've known this guy since 4th grade. We've been locked up together. He came to live with me. We lived in New York. He actually works at my job now. I got him a job in the operations side. And he's doing good now, too, finally. And but we're going, and I got, you know, strong arm robbery warrants, and I'm lying to my son's mom. Oh, I gotta work late. I can't get him. I'll get him in the morning, you know, because she don't want me around. Nobody did. And I remember we're driving north. We're going to hang out or whatever, going to get loaded. And I remember thinking, like, man, you could get locked up tonight. You got a kid. And I remember just saying, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, all that, like, the consequences are there. But I'm just willing to risk it just to go get one more taste, one more, whatever it is, go get loaded. And we go out that night, me and him, we get crazy. And the next morning I wake up in somebody's front yard. My shirt's all ripped up. I got one shoe on. I don't know where my wallet is. And I got to go get my kid. And he was born March 19th. 2013. So he's not even 2 months old, right? So I go get him. I'm staying at my mom's house. She got a little spare bedroom in the back. And I'm feeding him a bottle. And this kid is looking up at me, man. And whatever we call it, a moment of clarity. I don't know. And I have this moment of clarity. And he is looking at me, and he is depending on me to make sure he eats, sleeps, sheltered, and all this stuff. And I asked myself, I said, man, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing? Like, he needs you, man. And I could identify with that part. Finally, I found something I could identify with because, like, that abandonment, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't have one. And I remember, you know, people say they go back out, relapse, whatever we call it, and they felt that shame to go back and, like, have to. When I went back and I had to get my little white chip, I didn't feel any shame. I mentioned how I felt free walking out of those gates. When I went back and picked that up on May 7th, 2013, I had no embarrassment, no shame, no nothing. Like, I literally felt free. It was like a relief, right? I was like, it's like that. You know, when you get done with a step and you're like, some of that shit we've been carrying around our whole life. That bag starts to get a little less heavy. That's that feeling I got. And, you know, the crazy part is that God don't make garbage. And as I do this process and these, I start to realize of you know, for me, there's a lot in the wording when I do the steps, and I don't complicate it. You know, I got a sponsor, and they, well, pick somebody they have what you want. I didn't know what the fuck I wanted. I don't even know what that means, right? Coming in here, I have no idea what he has, right? But again, I picked a guy. He got loaded like I got loaded. He had done a little bit of time, and his dad wasn't around. I heard him share that, so I said, "That's my guy." So I asked him to be my sponsor, right? We're calling and we're building, and I remember he tells me this after. He's not my sponsor. He got too old. He had to move back to Michigan. He got like dementia, and I fucking miss that man so much, man. I really do. But anyway, he tells me he was going to tell me he couldn't sponsor me just because of how wild I was, and he tells me he goes to this out-of-town meeting. Somebody picks him up, and the guy is sharing a story, and in his story, the guy says that God brings people into your life when they need you and you need them the most. So now he said, you know, he's got it. So, you know, that's held true through this process for me. You know what I mean? Like, it really has. And I'm grateful for him, you know. He didn't play any games. He was rough, but in a loving way. And that's what I needed. Like, I don't need it sugar-coated. I don't need... it's not going to be all right if I fuck up. It's not going to be okay. It's not guaranteed. You know, my dad had a little bit of clean time, and I just remember, you know, he had come into my life like 6 months before, and I remember some of the lingo he was using, a little bit of that recovery talk, the amends, come stay with me, I owe you an amends. Again, another word I had no idea what it meant at the time, and I remember he was calling me, and he was calling me one night. I'm jumping back, I'm sorry. And he called me, and I was getting loaded. I had some people over my house. I could tell you what was going on. The Mets were playing the Cardinals in the NLCS. It was a Friday night, and I didn't want to answer the phone. You know what I mean? I didn't want to answer the phone. And next day, my mom comes to my apartment, and she's knocking on the door, and I open the door, and she's standing there. My mom's got this leg twitch she does, like when something's wrong. And I see her leg moving. She won't take her glasses off. I ask her what happened. I thought it's my brother's. I said, my brother. She's like, no. She tells me my dad had overdosed. Now, again, where I was at then, before I did some of this work that suggested is this is another thing. God, he hates me. He's out to get me. This is the world against me, right? It's not fair. So instead of like using that as the eye-opening sign of like, dude, you got to chill out, made me worse. You know what I mean? Like, it just adds to that chip I had, or that big bag of shit I carry around and just keep stuffing. And it made me worse. I got worse. And then getting back to it, Steve, you know, my sponsor, like Tommy had shared, this was the first man that I had an intimate relationship with. And I remember we go over my first step. We're going over it, and you know, he had me do a little assignment with it, and nothing crazy though. And he says, now, is this your bragging fest? Are you telling me how cool you are? And I remember saying to him, no, man, I said, I feel some relief, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, I never have to do any of that stuff again, right? Like, I don't have to do it anymore, and I can't do it anymore, man. You know, for me, step one is if I put one in me, I'm fucked. That's it, right? Like, that's it. There's no, like, wiggle room with that. I don't need to, like, test. I don't need to try. I don't need to find out. Like, I've admitted I am fucking powerless. You know what I mean? Like, and it is okay, right? It's okay. You won. You know what I mean? Like, you got it. But did it, you know what I mean? I'm on the winning team now, you know? And he makes me get to work. And I don't know how much time I got left, but I remember we're doing the
7.
Okay, 4 and 5. And, you know, I did the worksheet, the check boxes, and then we did a lot of writing. And I had asked him why. He says, well, we're searching for recovery, man, you know? And he always used to tell me, listen, man, the solution's in the steps. Sometimes if it's not on the surface, you got to dig a little deeper, man, but it's there. And we're going over some of the questions, and I probably had like 85 pages of writing on my first 4-step, like legit one, right? Like, I've done a couple, but, you know, some on like behaviors and shit, like you guys know. And he gets that dreaded last question, right? Now, is there anything you left out, right? I'm like, motherfucker, you know, like. But it's so cool because, like, through that process, we're building, man. We're building this connection, like this bond. And, like, he's telling me my stuff, I'm telling him his stuff. And that trust is starting to form, right? Like that you know, that searching and fearless moral inventory, right? And I say, yeah. And I tell him. Now, I'm thinking he's going to judge, you know, and he says, thank you. And I said, damn, what are you thanking me for, man? And he says, because now you're showing me you trust me and we can really do the work. You know what I mean? And, like, I never had that, man. I never had that. Like, I come to a 12-step fellowship and I got that longing, right? Whatever it was, from not having a dad, that something, an older person or another man that I can actually have an intimate relationship with and reveal self. You know what I mean? I don't have to keep it in no more. Like, I can get it out. I can start to dump that bag of shit that I've been carrying around with me my whole life. And if you're questioning it, you're not, you haven't done it, you don't, you know. For me, what did I have to lose? You know, we got together and he asked me, he said, well, what do you expect from the program? Like, and that was a very fair question and a very important question that he asked me. And I said, man, I don't know. But it's got to be a hell of a lot better than what I've gotten up to this point. And again, like, at this point, I didn't put an expectation on none of it. If I just got a smidgen better of where I had been, you know what I mean? I won. And I don't know when the desire to stop doing all that went away. And listen, there's a little dumb shit I obsess over. It happens. I think we all might. Nothing like I used to obsess over the dope, man. You know what I mean? Just that, like, I get nauseous thinking about it, you know, and I'm grateful for that. Like, I get nauseous thinking about how, like, I used to, and how it was this driving force, like, this thing. You know, and I remember, like, you know, the gifts do happen, but I didn't put any. I guess a cool little story, a sign, is I joined this home group, and it was a steps and traditions home group. Every week we did a step and tradition, you know, and a lot of old timers there. You know what I mean? Like, it was, and there was this guy Wayne. And this guy Wayne, he's passed away, and we're talking or whatever, and he's like, you know, you gotta sign the book, put your phone number in, be a home group member, you know, you'll get a little job. He's like, you know, service work, all this stuff. And, you know, Wayne tells me, he says, hey, man, get here, do the work, get this work done, you know, give yourself a year. And he's like, you might just have a chance, man. So I'm like, all right, whatever, kind of just. And then I go to sign the home group book, and I see Wayne's name, and I see his date. His date that he stopped using was the same day my dad had passed away. And I was like, damn, you know what I mean? Like, I was kind of blown away. Like, I was like, whoa. And then I thought about, like, what the, the signs, man. You know what I mean? Like, and I used to think that, like, I had this condemning, punishing God. And like, those guys who made this deal up knew what they were doing, man. This isn't like hypothesis. This isn't like, hey, we think this is going to work. I have never gotten a suggestion that I had to go do that somebody hadn't already done. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, hey, go check that out, see if it works, man. Let us know how it goes. It wasn't none of that, man. This is all trial and error, man. You know what I mean? Like, even in the wording, man, like, I got to find a God of my understanding, right? And find something that worked for me. And through getting that understanding, like, I found out that God's been there the whole time, man. Even when I was getting incarcerated, locked up, all that stuff, I wasn't being punished, man. I was being saved. You understand? Like, I was being saved. Like, something loved me so much more than I loved myself. It was removing me from what the fuck I was doing to get me away from it. You know what I mean? Because even though I didn't deem myself worthy, my God did. And I try not to forget that, man. Do I do this deal? No, I don't do this deal perfect, man. I used to tell Tommy all the time, man, I might have 10 years, but some days I wake up with the same guy that had 10 days, man. There's some days that does happen. And that's when I got to check in with you guys. What's going on with me, Why am I acting out? What is not going exactly like I think it should that's leading me to act this way? And generally it stems from that anyway, man. That self-centeredness just don't go away. It gets arrested, but the shit pokes its head back out, man. I have a solution today, and the solution's this deal, and this deal works because we're not all sick on the same day, man. You know what I mean? So if I wake up sick, I got to check in, and get a little bit of the antidote, the medicine, whatever it is. But I'm sure I rambled enough, man. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you.